coming to SC1, I know for a lot of you that was your first event. Show of hands if it was your first event, like your first divisional or regional event that you've been to. Okay. Uh, Chat box, one word that you would use to describe the SC1 conference and the SC1 event. One word. I know it's tough to sum up a full day of phenomenal messages and a lot of impact, but what's the key motivational? Okay. I like that, Hannah. Inspirational. Okay. All right. I see elevating. I got a hand gesture. Cool. Insightful, informational, impactful. Impactful. That word really resonates. Impactful. Okay. SC1, it was my first event as a representative, so it definitely does hold a special place for me. And I want to do a quick recognition for everybody who's sold $500 since the SC1 event. So I'm going to do a quick screen share here. That way you can see that. All right. So you should see this first section. So Caden's leading the way. One order, 6,900 CPO. Okay, a 7K order immediately leaving the event, right? If I'm not mistaken, Caden was in that breakout room with Justin Ford and Christian Hogue, and really just putting things in action. Okay, immediately as soon as you learn them. So really good to see. On pace really to have his best week ever. See Bella's at 3 orders at 4K. Love to see that. Kamaya at 3K. Love it. See Casimir, David, Madeline, and Maddie all over 2K as well. And then Brylan, Ella, Raven, Tasia, Jerry all over a grand. Peyton, Hayden, and Tristan over $800 so far. And then continuing, we have Brianna over $800. We have Shakira, Cam, Carson, Wade, Evan, Landon, Carolyn, and then Amy all getting on the board too. And so I want to remind you of our post-conference pop event. So some of them have already won this stainless steel table knife at $1,500. And then there's also, you sell $2,500 and you get the additional 4 pieces to make that a full 5-piece flatware set. So you have another 3 days to do this. Today, tomorrow, the next, and then one more. So it ends on Friday. So definitely make sure that you don't miss out on any demo slots. Okay. I want to take some time to share the agenda and do a quick debrief before I cover a couple of things on the second half of your summer. So hearing from Mr. Jackson really to start the event, what were some things that came up? And I'll have a couple of takeaways per message, and then we'll roll from there. So Mr. Jackson, as you know, he led with opening comments and did some recognition there. How many of you were impacted or had a couple of takeaways from SC1 and Mr. Jackson's kickoff from that? Who would like to share? You know, I love picking people that just look so excited to share. It's like one of my favorite things to do. So, Costin, you and I had a good combo. Tell me, how did you feel about, or what did you get from Mr. Jackson's opening thoughts to start the day?
I got that there's room to succeed. Like, that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of people, like, you might think you're doing good, but there's a lot of people that are doing maybe better, and there's stuff to strive for.
Yeah, right. There's always a bigger fish. Always a bigger fish. So it's good to keep that mindset. Love it. Who else would like to share now that Costin's broken the ice? Here, really. Thank you for volunteering. Please, would love to hear.
So Ben Jackson wanted to know that we're all here to grow, evolve, and elevate, and you never know how opportunity will present itself in your life. And I felt like that was very impactful because whenever he told us his story about the no gas in his car, just pushing himself to challenge himself.
But love that. We then talked about the push countdown and did some push recognition for all the sales that happened. Was it helpful to see people who sold a lot more than you did in those 18 days?
Yeah,
Did that reframe your perspective on how much you could sell in a 2.5 week time span?
most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, they're doing demos just like you. right? They're doing demos just like you are. So it's good to be around people, like Costin said, to see who's doing better than what you are. Okay. We had our special announcements talking about the Jamaica trip, which is obviously exciting. And make sure that you text your manager and get some time to work on the Jamaica trip. Okay. It has never been easier to win this Jamaica trip. Okay. And I'm not exaggerating. So typically when we start the summer, we sometimes do two sections, two contests. We have the first half of the summer where you could win there, but if you don't win in that, you have to restart and win in the second half. For those of you who started like Bryla, you started before the SC1 event. So any friends you got on the team still counts for the rest of the contest. So if you started first half of the summer, they basically extended it for you because they want to bring a ton of people to Jamaica. Okay, so text your manager, make sure you get some time to work on that. We then had a split in our groups. So those of you who were invited went to the workshop with Mr. Ford and Mr. Hogue, and then others of you were in the workshop with Miss Lyndhurst and Mr. Yates. So we'll start with a couple of takeaways from the group with on selling ultimate sets and selling flatware. I think cookware might have been sprinkled in as well. But show of hands, who was in that breakout room? Okay. Tristan, would love to hear you share. And then Catherine, would love to hear a couple of your notes too.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. I think the biggest thing I took away was really that like we always spend so long on knives and they're like, oh yeah, we got pots and pans too, and some forks and spoons as well. And it seems like lower level because we're not going into detail about it, but just learning how to ratio all pillars of the kitchen throughout the demo, not just doing certain parts for a long time and just squeezing the rest in a 60-second script. Just like it's gonna help me out a lot when I do start branching out to those other aspects of the kitchen. So that was a big thing I took away.
You know, we talk about that sometimes when we're teaching new representatives, right? It's like your excitement has to be, it starts off naturally super high for the homemaker, SIG, and complete set, right? But then you show the galley, and sometimes your excitement dips a little bit, and then it dips a little bit more. When you're talking about the other pillars of our Cutco kitchen in our collection, you have to keep that same excitement. That way they know it's all the same quality, all has the same guarantee, and it's phenomenal. Catherine, would love to hear some of your notes.
So similar to what Tristan said, but like setting up the rest of the Cutco kitchen
Mhm.
at the beginning, so it's not like an afterthought.
Yeah, that's fair. You're not like springing it on them at the end. It's something that they're already thinking about and they're aware of. Love that. Would love to hear a few takeaways from Lindsay's message on generating leads and generating appointments in that workshop. Okay, so who was in that breakout? Show of hands. We'll start there. Okay. Vanya, what were some of your thoughts?
My main takeaway from it was don't be afraid and wait till the end. I feel like I've heard that from a lot of people, but just hearing it from her and how it impacted her, that was very helpful.
Love it. Love that. And then Devon, would love to hear some of your thoughts too.
Um, you should always like, do the felt type thing. Customers recognize the objection, know that customers has already felt it, and show them an alternative option all the time, and ask quality questions and why you want to find like their true objection.
Wow. So that is a good transition as we go to Carson's message, which was the part 2 of that workshop and breakout. Carson was speaking on closing. Okay. And so being able to help your customer know that they're not alone in how they felt and work with them through that is helpful. Like imagine you go to the doctor and you're like, hey doc, I feel bad when this happens. And they're like, okay, I've never seen this before. Let me see what I can do to help you. How's that going to make you feel? Like some of you would start crying, it's like, oh my gosh, this is a once in a generational experience. But they're like, oh yeah, I totally get it. Other people have done that. Here's what works for them. It's the exact same concept. We have the chance to then have our message from Jordan on the ultimate experience. How many of you had some light bulbs? You know how like when in cartoons, when just like an idea comes to mind or something clicks for them and it's like a light bulb? So how many of you had some light bulbs in Jordan's message? Yeah. What were some of the key things that really stuck with you or that you took from that and hearing from that? Brylan, would love to hear a couple of your thoughts.
And you said some of the things I took away from Jordan's message.
Yes, on her experience and really the ultimate experience that you get from the opportunity.
Okay. I had to reorganize my notes, but that was the lady where she was talking about how her house had burnt down and Cutco
Correct.
replaced the knives. Okay.
Yes.
One of the main things I really got from that was that really show people the value of Cutco. Really make sure to bring up the warranties as well. That's pretty much the main things I got from it.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. And then Hannah, you were there too, correct? Cool. What were some of your thoughts?
I think just that Cutco was the only thing that got replaced. That was really powerful for me.
Love it. Love it. How many of you were able to recognize that it's more than just like showing and selling knives from her message as well? You know, like it's not just like, oh, yeah, I show knives for the summer. What you're getting and what you have the opportunity to develop is it's something that you don't get in a lot of other places. Again, it's really hard to find. So taking full advantage of that. Love that. Thank you for sharing. For those of you who were there, some were not able to be. So it's good to hear. I want to talk about how to transition into the second half of your summer. And I mentioned that SC1 in the summer is exponential, okay, because you're getting better consistently, and that's going to help your results get better as well. So I want you to look in your notes, all right? And one thing that new representatives sometimes do is when they learn something new, they're really excited and they do one of two things. They either they either take no action, it just stays as like excitement, or two, they typically take too much action and they try to completely rescript and do everything. Okay. One thing that I would suggest is from the closing workshop from Carson, from Lindsay's message on generating appointments, from Christian and Justin's breakout, pick one or two things that you want to implement each week. That's it. Because everything that you were taught and everything that you learned, they didn't learn that in one day. They learned that over years of experience and putting it together, trial and error. So don't try and put all those things in action at one time. Okay. So pick one or two things. I'll give you some time to look through your notes and pick those things out. Pick one or two things per message that you plan to implement this week. Okay. Would anybody like to share the one thing that they're going to put into action? Carlson, go for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna put into action. Showing like the 5 pillars of Cutco instead of just really focusing a lot of time on the knives, which I have been doing. Just showing them that Cutco is more than just a knife company. So really encompassing all of everything we offer better.
Crucial. That's crucial
Uh,
for sure.
for me, one thing that I would like to show better is to understanding the fact that we're not just selling people like knives. we're selling a service, but also I want to sell my customer an experience. So like I want to learn how to like really take into consideration of like making them actually feel like this is their knife and this is the benefits of their knife and stuff like that. So that's what I want to do.
For sure. I love that. People remember people remember what they feel, what you make them feel. So that's really important. Would love to appreciate seeing your wonderful face this morning, by the way. Thank you for sharing. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about your goal for the rest of the summer. Okay, how much do you want to sell? What do you want to go after? Is it a scholarship that you want to win? Is it getting into TLA? Is it a savings amount? I'll share that slide with you as well. I gave a couple of examples that you could go after for those of you who weren't there. Okay. So as you're thinking about your plan for the rest of the summer, it's like, what does that look like? Okay. What do you want? So whatever your goal is for the rest of the summer, and by the way, I hope a lot of you are thinking bigger after you've seen what's possible and what people also have done after seeing the push and seeing what they did in 18 days. So whatever your goal is for the rest of the summer, I would divide that. Here's the numbers that worked for me and from what I've seen. Take that number and divide it by about 30 to 40%. And that typically can end up being your SC2 goal. Okay. So for example, I talk about Max Brabham, right? Max had sold 6K the week of SC1. Max ended up selling another $32,000 for the last 10 weeks of the summer. Okay. So if we took 32,000 and we subtracted 10 grand, which is what he sold for SC2, that leaves you $22,000. You then divide that by 7 because SC2 is about 3 weeks. That means he sold about 3 grand a week to hit his goal. Okay. So that's how the numbers typically can play out. So let's say that you want to sell another 30K for the rest of the summer. Divide that by, call it 30%, multiply by 30%, excuse me. That could be your SC2 goal. You then take the remaining amount, divide it by 7 weeks. That's your weekly goal. Okay. You want to sell 10K from here on out. Let's say you want to sell 10K. You can divide that by 30%. That gives you 3 grand for the SC2 push, which some people will be having 3K days. So maybe restructure what you want to do for the rest of the summer. It's okay. Nothing wrong with that. And then you divide that 7 grand by 7 weeks. That's $1,000 a week. You sold 10K for the rest of the summer. That's not bad. You made 2 grand cutting foods and talking about knives. It's not a bad gig for the rest of your summer. Okay. So those are the numbers I typically use to break it down. And when you look at your weekly goal, let me pause. Does everybody have their weekly goal? Or no? We're still working through that. Okay. So take your weekly goal and I want you to break that down. So what's your average order? You can give it an estimate. Is it 300, 400, 500 if you don't know? If you do know, use that. Okay, so your weekly goal divided by your average order. Okay, and I'll pick Caroline. Would you mind walking through this with me?
Not at all.
Cool. So Caroline, what was your mission for the rest of the summer?
My mission is to hit 10K and get the President's Club letter.
Cool. And do you know what you've sold so far for the summer?
5K. I've been out of town a good bit, so I haven't had much time to sell.
Okay. So you want to sell another 5 grand between now and the end of the summer?
Yes.
Okay. So you have a lot of trips and things lined up for the second half of the summer as well?
Yes, I'm pretty
Okay, cool.
busy this summer being out of town.
Love it. So take that 5 grand, and what was your weekly goal that you were able to break that down to?
About 700 CPO.
Okay. And then what's your average order?
My average order, I believe, is at around 700 CPO right now.
Okay. So for you, that's really just focusing on completing 2 to 3 appointments. What would you say is your closing percentage? If you did 5 appointments, how many orders would you place?
If I did 5 demos, I'd place 4 orders.
Okay. So then for you and all of your travel plans you have going on, it's can you consistently get 3 demos booked? Now, this isn't the same for everybody, right? Some of you are more in town than Caroline is. And so you can totally go after that 10 number. And some of you need to, right? Your average order may not be $700, and that's okay. All right. This number is different for everybody. So for you, Caroline, to make sure that you are scheduling or really completing 3 appointments, how many would you need to book?
I'd book 5 in order to complete 3.
Okay. So at this point, we should have average order. Okay. How many orders that is a week, how many appointments you need to complete, and then how many demos you need to book. Okay. So we're working backwards to create our goal. So you know how many appointments you need to book. How many calls does it take you to schedule an appointment? 5, 7, or 10?
I'd say 7 to 10, depending on the
Okay.
time of day.
Okay. So 7 to 10, which means to book 5 appointments, that's anywhere from 35 to 50 calls. Okay. Now, I'm not sure about your summer schedule. And for most representatives, they're there at the office Sundays and Wednesdays. And so you typically want to make about 60 to really 70 to 80% of your phone calls on those 2 days. So let's say that my goal is to make 80 calls a week, right? Because I want to book 10 appointments and it's about 7 calls to book one. That's call it 70 calls. Roughly, I'll make 80 for simple numbers. That means I would need to make 30 to 35 calls on Sunday and Wednesday, just to get the baseline amount. Okay. So for you, 35 to 50, are you in office both days or are you off Sundays or what does that look like for you?
I'm off Sundays
Okay.
because I normally go to youth group on Sunday evenings and spend time with my family that day. But I am
Okay.
normally in the office on Wednesdays, unless
Okay.
I have a prior commitment.
So then on Wednesdays, you would probably make what, about 30 calls that evening?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other 20 to 30% of calls that you want to make throughout the week, you can knock those out on Champions Club.
Yes.
So if you're going for 50 calls, you would do 30 on Wednesday and then 10 to 20 calls on any of the Champions Clubs that you join, right? And that would get you to your appointments booked up. Okay. And so I'll give you a second to finish up some of those numbers. Caroline's were super simple. She knows her numbers, and that's good. Okay, if you don't know your numbers, I would definitely start to track them. You can find your average order on Vector Connect. Okay, that is under my account, personal reports, and then you go sales/CPO. That shows you average order for the nation, the division, your office, and yourself, and also shows you how much you're giving for free in comparison to all those other categories as well. And then I would use a call tracker. Okay. Using a call tracker is very crucial. So you know exactly how many calls you need to make to schedule an appointment. That way you can actually track your stats and get the result. Okay. Does everybody have a call number that they want to focus on each week? Does anybody need some support figuring out that number? Okay. Drop the total number of calls you need to make. Post that into the Zoom chat for me. It's okay. Don't be shy. Cool. Jax is 80. Simple. 50 from Parker. Good. I see a lot of good efficiency on the phone. A lot of good efficiency on the phone. Okay. So some of you saw what your weekly sales goal would need to be, and that might have made you a little bit nervous or like scared you a little bit. Did that happen to anybody where you saw that number and that made you a little apprehensive? Okay. I want you to jot down, who do you know that is closer to your weekly goal than you are right now? Who is it? Okay. Is it one of the people at SC1 that won a trophy? Right? Is it somebody that we just recognized for selling 2K already, 3K already? All right. You may not know, and that's okay. So what I want you to do, if you're not aware of who can help you get closer to that number or who can be your rabbit for this, who you can chase, I'd like you to text your manager 3 things. 1, text them your weekly call commitment, so the number of calls you need to make. 2, your number of demos you need to book. And then 3, your weekly sales goal. Text them those 3 things. Number of calls you need to make, number of demos, that is, and then your weekly sales goal. And what ends up happening is your manager will now have the opportunity to connect you, if not get you in front of the people who can help you do those things. One of the easiest ways to increase your average order is by being on Champions Club. Okay. Being on Champions Club, getting onto the alliance, that will be game changer for you. Zanaya, how much had you sold before SC2 last year?
About 4 to 5 grand.
4 or 5K in your career sales. Were you accepted onto the alliance for SC2?
I was.
And how much did you sell in 18 days? Actually, the push is 18 days, but you had a family vacation the last week, so you only had about 13 days to sell. How much did you sell in those 13 or so days?
About 21 to 22K.
Cool. After selling only 4 or 5 grand, you sold 22 grand. Your biggest week was what, $9,500?
Yep.
Yeah.
The week I went on vacation. Yep.
Getting a part of the alliance will definitely increase your skill set because it increases your circle of influence and the people that you're able to be around. Okay. All right. I'll give you some more time to send that text. I know from my office, I've only got Vanya's. So thank you. Waiting on a few others. So again, your number of calls you need to make each week. Your number of demos that would take, and then your weekly sales goal. I have no idea why it looks like that. And then the last thing I'd like you to do, and if you don't know who this is, that's okay. I'd like you to pick somebody who can hold you accountable. Maybe it's a friend you've made in the office, okay, that you vibe with. You have similar goals as. Okay. I want you to send them a text and ask them, hey, can we be accountability partners? Or can you be my accountability partner? And it is okay, by the way, if that person is not your accountability partner in return. That's okay. All right. Let's say, for example, that LaCherish, okay, was to text Zanaya, hey, can you be my accountability partner for my calls, demos, and my weekly sales goal? Because LaCherish, right, looks up to Zanaya, sees how much she sold, wants to learn from her. Well, that doesn't mean that Zanaya has to reciprocate and have Cherish as her accountability partner. Zanaya could reach out to Sweeney Say, hey, Sweeney, can you be my accountability partner? And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. So you can help somebody else without reaching out to them for the same support. So if you're not sure, text your manager and say, hey, can you help me find an accountability partner? Can you help me find an accountability partner? Because if we're being honest, the only thing that really keeps people from hitting their goal and hitting what they want is not consistently taking the right actions. So if you have somebody in your corner that's helping you do that, it's that much easier. Did everybody get those texts out to their manager? All right, good deal. So we are going to take advantage of that 20 to 30% of your calls today, knock out some calls for the rest of our week. Go ahead and line up your top 10 to 20. Pick your range, 10, 20 calls, depending on what your weekly goals are, and commit to that. Okay, commit to that. So even if the Zoom ends and you're only at 12 calls, you committed to 15, you committed to 20. Make the calls yourself. Okay, don't let your manager down. Don't let your accountability partner down, and don't let yourself down, most importantly. Okay, don't let yourself down, most importantly. Go ahead and line up your top 10 to 20 people you'll reach out to as Sir Sweeney. Good morning, Senior. What a handsome fellow. Look at him. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. And that's all you, Mr. Jones.
Appreciate it. We have Sweeney and Aisha, our wonderful Columbia District Operations Manager. They're going to crush our phone jam this morning.